The year was 1816, a year so strange that history almost forgot how to describe it. The sky stayed dim, the air stayed cold, and people around the world began to wonder if the sun itself had gone out. Crops withered, rivers froze in June, and the world shivered through what became known as the year without a summer. This is Colin from the History Pilgrim. This is a very interesting historical story. I hope you enjoy. One has to wonder what could cause an entire planet to lose its summer. To find the answer, we have to go back 1 year earlier, to April of 1815, on the Indonesian island of Sumbawa. There stood Mount Tambora, a massive volcano that had slept for centuries. And then it erupted. The explosion of Mount Tambora was one of the most powerful in recorded history. So powerful that it was heard more than 1,200 miles away. That is roughly the distance from New York to Kansas City. The eruption sent vast clouds of ash, gas, and rock shooting high into the sky. The ash rained down for miles, turning day into night. Tens of thousands of people in Indonesia were killed by the blast, and tens of thousands more died from starvation and disease afterward. Entire villages vanished beneath layers of pumice and ash. But Tambora's impact went far beyond Indonesia. The volcano ejected billions of tons of ash and sulfur dioxide into the upper atmosphere, forming a layer that reflected sunlight back into space. Global temperatures dropped and the Earth began to cool. Even today, the slopes around Tambora remain sparsely populated. Beneath thick forests lie the buried foundations of once thriving villages, silent reminders of nature's incredible power. By the summer of 1816, the effects of the eruption were being felt across the globe. The sky was hazy, the sunset blood red, and the weather unpredictable. In New York City, June felt more like November. People bundled up in coats and gathered around fireplaces instead of enjoying the summer warmth. Icy winds blew off the harbor, and days barely reached the temperatures one might expect in early spring. Upstate, the situation was far worse. In Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, farmers woke up to find their fields covered in frost. Crops withered overnight. In Maine, over a foot of snow fell in June. Imagine snow piling up in what should have been planting season. Livestock had nothing to eat. Farmers began slaughtering their animals because they couldn't afford to keep them alive. Food prices skyrocketed, and families faced hunger and ruin. Thousands of New Englanders gave up on farming altogether and moved westward towards Ohio, searching for new land and better weather. This mass migration permanently reshaped the population of the young United States. In Pennsylvania, lakes and rivers stayed frozen into July. In Ohio, newly arrived settlers lost their entire growing season. Starvation loomed, and in some towns, food riots broke out. Meanwhile, the southern states, which experienced milder weather, suddenly found their crops in enormous demand. Prices soared, trade routes strained, and the young nation's economy was tested in ways it had never been before. But while America struggled, Europe was facing an even greater catastrophe. Across France, Germany, Ireland, and much of the British Isles, constant cold and rain destroyed cereal crops. Famine spread from village to village. Bread prices tripled. People resorted to eating bark, leaves, and even sawdust to survive. In some cities, riots erupted as desperate crowds stormed bakeries and warehouses in search of food. The famine triggered a wave of migration. Many Europeans, especially Germans, Swiss, and Norwegians, crossed the Atlantic seeking better lives in the United States. The wide, fertile farmland of the Midwest offered a second chance, and their arrival helped shape the nation's growth for decades to come. In the summer of 1816, a group of writers gathered at Lake Geneva in Switzerland. Among them were Lord Bryson, Percy Shelley, and Mary Shelley. Trapped indoors by constant rain and thunder, they challenged each other to write ghost stories. Out of that gloomy summer came one of literature's most famous creations, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Even our modern image of Christmas, snow-covered towns, families huddled by the fire, cozy scenes of warmth against the cold, may trace back to these years. In 1816, London experienced a rare snowy winter, and those scenes stuck in the public imagination. Snow became not just a weather pattern, but a symbol of nostalgia and togetherness. Despite the devastation, humanity adapted. Across Europe and North America, farmers began experimenting with hardier crops that could survive colder climates. Potatoes, rye, and root vegetables. They also began practicing soil enrichment and crop rotation, techniques that would later become staples of modern agriculture. The crisis also encouraged governments to cooperate in new ways. The need to move food and supplies across regions spurred improvements in trade networks. The idea of coordinated disaster relief, that nations could help one another in times of crisis, began to take shape. In time, communities rebuilt, harvests improved, and life slowly returned to normal. But the lessons of that dark year were not forgotten. The year without a summer was a stark reminder of nature's power to disrupt human life on a global scale. A single volcanic eruption on a distant island changed weathers, economies, migration, and even art across the entire planet. It brought famine and fear, but also sparked adaptation, innovation, and resilience. Sometimes history's darkest skies give rise to its brightest ideas. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe and share with a friend. Sincerely, the History Pilgrim.